Not that I got the words. No, but it's very good. So we can start if you want to.
Let's start from the start.
Yeah.
So with your first feature, what led up to that?
I think I did a tricky thing also, because I did, before The Stolen Man, I did another film that was a collective film, a film done by 11 directors. And somehow the experience of making that movie, that was very important for me, also took me to make my first feature by myself. Like all the energy that I grew in that experience, where I met where I work again with the DP, where I met the girls, where I met Romina and Maria, was like just the beginning in this collective film. And that energy that I saw that was growing up, I said, okay, I have to keep on working on it. There's something that I feel comfortable, and I think it's interesting for me to undergo and to undertake this pairing of people together to make a film. And something that usually happens once you finish a film, I usually get the feeling that I want to do another one. Like once it's over, you get a little bit anxious and you say, I would like to keep on shooting. And then I'd say, okay, I will do a short film, something simple that I can manage, and through my university. And I applied for, they gave us the schedule, a week, a 16mm camera. I haven't shot in film, so I wanted to shoot in film. And well, it led like something like, when I finished school, finished this collective film, it was okay, let's keep on working. Let's treat this like an athletic kind of activity, to keep on working. And I shot that short, and it took me some time to edit it because there were big problems with the material, with the chemical material. Apparently, they sold me like rotten material, so it was like tragic. Suddenly everything was lost, and they were warning us from the lab that it was awful and blah blah blah. And then I got to see the material, and it was not that terrible. It was a little bit crappy, but it was fine. So I edited all the same. It was horrible time, but when I saw it, it was okay, maybe I can do something with it. I'd started editing with Alejo Mogishansky, that he edits my films, and at the same time he's a filmmaker by himself. He has like 3-4 films, and very good films as well. And we started editing this short film, and the short film didn't work out that well, and there was something that was not working. And he realized that the material was good, but something was missing. So there should be, Alejo loves to tell you that you have to shoot more, to go to reshoot. He loves to do it. And at first it seems like a little bit of a mess, but then it's very good because you kind of think of it as a very homemade or handcraft activity, because you write, you rehearse, you shoot, you edit, and then you write again, and you shoot, you rehearse, and this kind of writing and rewriting, I think it's very helpful for the film, for films. So he told me, okay, I think these characters are interesting, so maybe they can meet again, and there's something that is not that clear. So, and we started one night with a piece of paper. We just did like the design of the film, and we realized that this short film was no short film at all. That what it was missing was the usual thing that people that just started don't realize, that it's the middle part of the film that it's the most difficult. I just went from the beginning to the end, and that's what the strange thing with a short film. You say, how can she get here, coming from this place? And you have to develop, you have to see more, you have to take time. So we developed the plot somehow like this, the two of us, and we decided to keep on shooting. So I asked for my university to provide me with the cameras for 2 times. Like the first shooting was March, April, the second one was September, October, and the third one was December, January. 1 week each. And we just did that. We edited, we wrote, we shot, we edited again. It was very interesting how I really like that way of working. I never got to do it again in such a long period of time. I would love to do it again, and I did it, but in shorter periods. And then, well, in a year time, there was even a fourth retake in February, and finally we did it, and suddenly we had this feature. You cannot see the short film out of it because it was never a short film. It was a atrofiado, like a feature atrofiado. I don't know how you say it. Atrophy. When you have, for instance, your hands and your hands are like this.
Oh.
Like the disease.
Yeah. Atrophy. Yeah.
Atrophy.
Yeah.
It was like a feature atrophied. I don't know. And Alejo was intelligent enough, sensible enough in order to realize that. And we developed an incredible friendship at the same time. He was also editing the film previous to that, A Propósito Buenos Aires. So then premiering Bafisi, it was good and strong experience to show the film there. It's bizarre each time that you show your film. I'm very happy with the film. And then you show it, and well, it becomes public, and all this work that you put yourself into is shown, and you get the reactions, and that sometimes it's good, sometimes so. But yeah, it's an experience that you are not prepared. The exposition one, even if it's small. I never had like big expositions, but it's a bizarre time, and you came to learn a little bit out of it. I'm just telling this because I just went through the same thing 4 days ago, and I thought I would cope with it, and rather not. But yeah, you get nervous, stupidly nervous, and yeah, and that was the film wasn't shown in many places. It took some time to have its whereabouts. And it took like a year even. Like I premiered in Bafisi, nothing happened in Bafisi. Everybody won an award except me and two more. And it was okay. You're not here to win awards. You're just making films and showing them. But nothing. And you say, wow, well, maybe I'm absolutely wrong in something. Yeah, and then you don't care much. You keep on seeing the film. You learn from it. You start getting ideas for new things. It usually happens to me that way. I react to the film that I already did. So A Propósito led me to El Hombre Robado, and El Hombre Robado took me to Todos Mienten. When I decided to do Todos Mienten, I wanted to shoot in color, for instance. I wanted to shoot with many actors that I came acquainted with. I wanted to make a narrative that was much more complex, more fragmentary. I wanted to keep on working with Sarmiento as a subject, and I became making these new variations on these themes, and that's how Todos Mienten got its existence. And also because finally 1 year after its premiere in Bafisi, almost 1 year, El Hombre Robado won some awards. The Stolen Man won 2 awards in Jeonju and in Las Palmas Film Festival that were generous awards, and that money was made able for me to pay the people that work in the previous film, and also to put the money into the next one. I do think that there should be a bond of production and brotherhood in between the films. That I work, I teach, so when I have to buy my shoes, I use that money. And when I get money from the films, I try that goes to the next one. Fortunately, I have a way of producing that it's very small, very cheap, very reduced budget. I always would try to, my idea is that they should grow from film to film, but little by little, step by step, in a proportionate way. And the money that we have, it's been distributed as best as I can. Of course, there are no big amounts of money, but every time that money comes in, it gets distributed, and that system tries to be smooth and tries to be gentle and tries to sustain a way of producing that I enjoyed. And that is this, that I have, and I have made a couple of films right now, so it's somehow working, but I think it's very important that the structure grows each time, that I shouldn't repeat myself in the system in which I decide to work. But at the same time, it would be bizarre to go and make like $1 million or I don't know, $500,000 film, because that money would imply something else that I don't know if I will be able to cope with it, to control those structures. But little by little, trying to I'm working with my friends, with people that I love. I love providing them money, even if it's so little, but things should be movement all the time. We shouldn't believe that we know what we are actually doing, so we have to move all the time. And that was El Hombre Rodado.
It has a very distinct structure, and I'm wondering, did you arrive on that because of the editing and shooting process you had?
No, I think that the structure was achieved in editing the short film even. Yeah, because the pan, los carteles, the boards were shot in the second time.
Okay.
Were not shot for the short film. And yeah, that gave me a lot of freedom, that fragmentary structure, because if I ever need that diary kind of structure, because if I ever needed one more thing for explaining, for showing, for describing something, I could always come up with one new day. It's you can see many filmmakers doing that, and it's a good lesson because it gives you structure. It makes you feel that you are in somewhere in control, but at the same time it's freedom. You can always put another day in between the 4th of February and the 20th of February. And we have this book, this Sarmiento book, that it's a journal, it's a war journal, a diary. So you have the dates, and I'd like this idea of confusing the rhythm of her reading with the structure of the film. That I didn't want to put like July 4th of 2008. It was much more interesting to guide the film through her reading. So you have how she goes through the book while the film gets its progression. Not the same. And it's an idea that Alejo and I had, and I think it's good. I don't know if people get that, but I don't care that much. I think that it's good that it structures the thing, and it somehow fetishizes the book, something that I also like, and shooting, and there you see my underlining, and that could be the underlining of the character, and the confusion that she mixes all the readings or something of the reading with her life. I think it was a good idea, and especially that it gave a structure that it's not that easy to find, and at the same time it was like a freeing structure.
When she talks about her reading habits and skipping around, it made me think of Hopscotch by Cortázar, where you're not necessarily supposed to read it in order.
Yeah, there's no, you can choose what order to read, but yeah, I haven't thought about that book, but yeah, it's this kind of playful reading. Yeah, playful readings. It can be in the category.
The counterpoint, the other reading strategy, is the slow, segmented, but in order one. And I'm wondering what that says about the characters, the difference between skipping around and slowly over a long period of time. Yeah,
the rhythm of each reading, that each girl has each reading. Yeah, that was like a joke. And somehow it describes the character in a way, and the relationship towards reading, and the relationship with work also. Suddenly, if you're working, you don't have time to be reading that much, and you have to find your short periods of non-working time to read. So you read in the bus, you read in the waiting room, you read in the bathroom, you read before going to sleep, maybe after lunch a little bit. And the film has this idea of stealing time to the working time. It's all shot during the lunch hours. It's a film shot at noon, and it has this same idea that while they imagine these things, they talk, they gossip, they read, they do their things and their plots just during this hour and a half or this hour. Like that's why she's running all the time, because she has to go to work. I like not showing her actual work, just being there and that's it. You have to trust in that. But yeah, she's always running out from work, so in order to keep her life up. And so I thought that the rhythm, the reading rhythm would tell about the plot, would tell about the character. Yeah, the rhythm of the character.
In all of your films, there's kind of a space that's for work, even if it's not present, and then there's a space for kind of an artistic community, or in the sense that they're separate, and in other films they are the same sphere.
Yeah, I enjoy thinking what my characters work on, even though the jobs are not that regular. And you don't get, for instance, Todos Mienten, you don't know exactly what they are doing, but you know that they're making their lives out of something concerning art projects and selling things, stolen things, not stolen, but forgery things. Like they invent a character in order to earn the money as a group. But yeah, in Rosalinda, maybe it's the only one, but well, you can think that they are on leave for this rehearsal. It's rather abstract sometimes, the time and place of that film. But yeah, I think that it's always interesting to know how these people get to manage in life. It gives me also like a way of describing them. And they give me plot. It's interesting to make sure to mix money and love. You always get in troubles with that, so that makes plot.
And the sound in Stolen Man is also really interesting, and I was hoping Stolen Man, yeah.
Yeah, it's been it took long time to do that sound, because we shot during a whole year. It was not easy to be there and make like a unit work out of it. But we really enjoyed the silence of it, the not overdoing things, not putting that much music, not treating sound as an effect, but trying to put the sounds of the places where we were. Also, you can see a lot of the city, and the sound of the city also have the nerves of the character, and you can understand why they're running or plotting such somehow ridiculous strategies. I think that sometimes they're confused people, like the characters are confused, and because of that confusion they plot. So city life, the sounds, and that will help to, not to point out, but because I don't like to point out things and give reason to things like very in particular, but yet to achieve a certain amount of levels of sense, of possible senses, like through the rhythm, through the reading, through the text of what the text means, through the way they deal with that text, through sound, through the music, and all those things coming together will somehow help the spectator to take its decision on what the film is about and what is happening and how do I relate to this, instead of like it's because she's a crazy working class girl that she reads Sarmiento as if she was reading, I don't know, Walter Scott. But there's no need to catch those things. You just have to let yourself be seduced, I think, by the things that I shoot. And, yeah.
I like the juxtaposition between the confused state that you describe, and also this kind of desire to order things and for there to be like an inventory or a categorization, especially with the plants. And
yeah. Well, I was reading a lot of, I like 19th century literature and thinking, and Sarmiento belongs to that era, so I have to somehow infuse or influence the film with that. I wanted it, I didn't have to do it, I wanted it to do it. And so all this kind of positiveness and organization and rationality that came from the 18th century, but something was in 19th, and yeah, all this relationship with nature. I thought that would be an interesting shock for the nowadays landscape or imagination. And it's nice to shoot plants. They're nice. And yeah, it was nice to see through the work of collage the possibilities of narrative. And how can I describe a friendly, sentimental walk through the park without having to do like the typical thing. So I was interested in showing the place. I was interested in talking about plants or showing plants or something. And I decided, and also interested in what you see during a walk. So I organized this like invisible walk where there's no character, but in the end they get there. But you go from place to place, like from I don't know how you call that. When you run and you have like a stick and you give a stick like postas.
No, it's a relay race.
Well, yeah. I organized that scene in that sense, like this monument sees this other one, so you do a shot and a counter shot, and then there's an avenue that goes a car, so the car goes like this, and then you choose another car that goes that way, and it made all the walk through the first park to the last park that has this brick, this bizarre brick of the house of the of Sarmiento's enemies in that time, and it was like a seductive way. They were like walking there and seducing a little bit of themselves, and maybe it could be communicated in that way. So let's try a thing. Let's experiment a little bit with narrative. I think that's what I'm most interested in. Like, how can we keep on telling stories and keeping true to what we are shooting. So this idea of the collection of leaves. Okay, he's a botanic, so he must be interested in the way leaves move. So let's show them, and you can, even though you can see them very good because they are cut like that, you can see there's an interest in this. So then when you see the next scene, like 20 minutes afterwards, they resonate, and I like doing those resonances. I think that all my films work in that way, resonances, that you have to apply like a retrospective thinking. You are in scene 4, and there's something that will be sounding you from scene 1, even though you're not absolutely conscious. Maybe you don't have to be like taking notes in order to make the connections, but I think that they build up something. Sometimes you miss something, sometimes you won't. It happens. You get to the cinema, you don't know what's happening to you. So the idea is like trying to seduce into making these relationships going. Yeah, I like that moment. Alejo didn't like it that much. He wanted to take about it. Yeah, but I really insisted on that. It was a little caprice. It was a caprice, but I think it was nice. It was very nice to shoot it. Even there were a lot of problems with the material of Stolleman. Also, one of the cans open up, and so the assistant had to cut all. So actually, in that scene, in the invisible walk, some of the cuts are done by the assistant of camera that had to cut it in the black box or in the black bag. Yeah. And so it's pretty rough. The material is it has been handed and touched, so that's why it's scratched and messy. But at the time, it's horrible when you are there and they tell you that all that you have shot today has opened up. You're sad, and people are nervous because they think, oh my God, he's gonna kill me. But no, things went fine. You have to keep the crew in a good mood. Good things come and bad things will always be coming, so you should cope with everything. And finally, we introduced that to the film. Yeah. That scene sometimes is cut by the camera assistant, not by Alejo nor me. And it gives something. I think it's good. It it makes it rock a little bit, and it was needed.
Yeah, the walk, and I was going to mention the walk specifically in relation to one passage where it does end with the film being exposed and just going white, and there's an abrupt cut. It makes the spectator aware about the process of representation that is going on.
Yeah, I think that I wanted to expose the process of making the film. It was not the experience that we have. I didn't want to be. The idea was that I lived through this experience. I became friends with these people. I became not that good friends with some other people, and these things happened. Suddenly, I bought to a very famous lab some cans, and they were selling them to me in a bad state. That's ridiculous, and that happened. And you can see the difference of density and everything. And I think it's part of the experience. I wouldn't like to be lying. I don't like to make up things, to put makeup and make the film look as films should be looking like. And it was very. I think I learned that also from Alejo. The idea of coping with that reality coming to you and handling it and doing the work that exposes that. Maybe not in an obvious way, but those lights, those coming of light, those scratches, those bad density, that grain is part of the experience of making the film. And it's not different from Maria behaving that one way, or Romina talking in another way, Now, it's a long time since I have seen the film, but I'm sure that once I see it again, it will be much more personal. As it has personal things like Sarmiento, or maybe people that I used to love, or something like that. I love to put everything in the film, and that was something else. It was not nice, but it made the film as it is.
One of the resonances that you mentioned, like to move into They All Lie, is kind of the structure, but whereas Stolen Man kind of jumps around chronologically, there seems to be an evolution in the title cards, I guess, or the intertitles in They All Lie, where it goes from kind of titles to quotes to eventually lyrics.
Yeah, to actually the plot.
Yeah.
In case people wouldn't get it, that we made a song out of it. Well, again, variations. I like working with how do you say the cards?
Yeah, I would say the cards or intertitles. Yeah.
So, and I like this idea of making this fragmentary film much more clearly than the Stolen Man. And at the beginning, it was only intertitles. Like putting titles to each scene. I like it like giving like a hint or maybe a joke. They are usually jokes.
References.
References. Like they're. I don't know if I would do it now, but it's done, and I can cope with that. But suddenly when I kept on working, I realized that it was interesting to go against that theory of putting the titles, so they should be developing into something else. And it should help, because if it says beginning, middle, and end, it's helpful, and at the same time, it tells you that the film can have its beginning in the final part of the film, and it gives hints. I don't know, Elena y los hombres, Elena and the men. Right? That has to do with Renard. Yeah. But because I was seeing that film then, there's nothing of Renard in the film, but okay, it's something that it's there. And at the same time, it really works, because she's Elena, and I didn't put Elena because of Ingrid Bergman. I think I put it because of Shakespeare. Most of the names are, not all, but most of them come from Shakespeare's also. Because I was reading Shakespeare while I was writing Todos Mienten.
And Othello comes up in Stolen Man too, as well, doesn't it?
That's very weird. Yeah, because Maria was performing actually that. She was Desdemona, so that's an internal joke in the Stolen Man. That Maria is like copying her own performance in theater. You don't have to catch that at all, but it was something that was happening in life, and I'm not that creative nor imaginative, so I take things out of the world that surrounds me. So they were doing that. it has to do with jealousy, it has to do with plotting, it has to do with a strategy. So I think it could somehow give another level to the film. Look, they see this, she's copying, she copies Sarmiento, she copies Shakespeare, she's like someone that is all the time copying, so it was this idea of growing into those levels and including these people that I started to admire and I was interested in their work and the possibility of introducing them to the film. The Intertitles them, yeah, they were organizer, a little bit jokey, but they I think that first of all they organize, they help. Elena y los hombres. They're the men talking about Elena because it's everything around Elena, and Elena is kind of disappearing in that part of the film. Elena is at the beginning and the end, and in the middle she disappears. So we have to bring her somehow. So the intertitle helps in that way. It's not only for a quote or some. That's superficial. That's the choky part of it. It's not a big deal. But I do think that they relate the truth on each of these. Intertitles have to do with a narrative, or F de verdadero, F for
fake,
it's not. Of course, I don't remember if I'd seen the film. I mean, that time I think I didn't, but I knew it was on painting. I knew it wasn't on forgery, and at the same time, I knew that what these people were doing was not as smart as what the character in or what Wells was doing. So I wanted to put this stupid thing that they're doing everything wrong. So it's F for, it's not F for false, it's F for truth. So the idea of the clumsiness. I think that most of the characters that I work with, that I have done, are a little bit clumsy. And clumsiness make them plot or they're confused. So that was that idea. It's not that everybody should be having a seminar on film history, but maybe I was having that, so I introduced it, and I think that confusion could help to make people realize that things were not what we are seeing, or there are these kind of mistakes and this clumsiness that maybe they can feel and they can relate to the narrative.
Even though there's that clumsiness, it's also a film that's about kind of recording and reciting and transmitting messages if they're in bottles that are buried, like some form of communication. How did those devices function for the narrative?
They are isolated and they are absolutely crying out loud for communicating. All the films are trying to communicate. They're trying to tell someone that they're doing wrong. They're trying to example them that they should do the other thing. And they're always trying to tell things to the other one, but they don't do it in a straight way. They just go all around. Because the more surrounding there is, the more plot there is, and the more possibility of including more world and more uncertainty there is. But yeah, I haven't thought that much about it, but it's true that they all want to show, one character wants to show something to the other one, and it will make a performance out of it instead of a lecture. They will be performing, and they will be using certain tools, the books, this paragraph, Shakespeare, and I think that most of my narratives motif can be that, like showing a third person through a performance by taking the literary the fiction side and putting into like literature, theater, and mixing them with the reality of the film. So and then all the bottles, I forgot about the bottles. That was just trying to mess things around, not to be that serious in a point, and trying to always bring some kind of new level or new awkward point. Like I'm not that fond of naturalism, and I think that life can be, I like to think bigger than life, and like parallel worlds. So which points would help me to build a world that could be parallel. But at the same time, it's interesting when those parallels actually meet sometimes, or they have connections and ramifications. So yeah, I think that in that case has to do with this awkward idea of these people deciding to be in a hideout, and that strange idea. It's not only it's not their personal idea, but something that has to do with their history, with the past, with the family. So bottles and old books, and had to do with the relationship with the previous generations, maybe, and how they also were like a little bit awkward.
Yeah, because there's the tyrant relative, and there's and something from the past that's kind of coming back.
Yeah, that's like that's something that is in all the film, and that's something that I also like. In the first two films, I think it's this idea of how can we show the past in a photograph, in a photograph that it's present, and how can you talk about what happened here before, the brick, the monuments, the leaves, the bottles in that sense, that there were things that had to do with history, with real history, or with plotted history. And sometimes when you grab Sarmiento, you can get confused, because he writes in a way that uses fiction manners in order to talk about reality, in order to manipulate that reality somehow and make his point. And sometimes he does foolish things with that manipulation, and he makes mistakes and all. And yeah, it's this. I think that it's also something that interests me, the idea of how to communicate an image of an idea of the past through an image of the present, and this connection with the 19th century, and this idea of genealogy. In Todos Mienten, the problem is that she thinks that she belongs to a tradition that she wants to pursue, and that she's a little bit epical fool, you can say, Elena, and she does all the plot. She's the script writer of the film, and yeah, they're all the time worrying and about the past, about their past, even though it's very playful and all, but they are always like obsessed with the past, and that takes them into action, especially in Todos Mienten.
And there's like a political component too, because there's the use of the word tyrant is loaded, but there's also the reference to the unitarios.
Yeah, they were all part of the same epoch, and yeah, it has to do with the politics. Sarmiento he's a politician, he's an intellectual, he's a writer, and he doesn't write fiction, so it's bizarre that I'm taking him as Walter Scott.
Yeah.
But you can think him through that. You can be more conscious of his writing and his doing by putting him in that structure and seeing how he uses words in order to build his speech in a way that goes much more far away than chronic.
Yeah.
It's not a chronicle. It's something else, and it's in between. It's a hybrid. The literature is beginning in Argentina in the 19th century. They're trying to do their own national thing. They don't know what to do, so they just do the things. And you have these monsters of books that are the most interesting for me. And they mix all these themes, all the family and the árbol genealógico, the tree, the family tree.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all ways of trying to refer to the past and to try to link like the beginning of our nationality with our present days. What would happen? What is of these people now, of these families now? And I'm fooling a little bit around them. Yeah, I'm not taking them that serious. But I don't think, sometimes they were taken serious themselves, but sometimes they were not. And yeah, there's a strange decision of myself of dealing with those political subjects and bringing them today in this kind of gentler way. Sometimes some people get a little bit annoyed by that. but that's the problem.
It sounds like there's an interesting parallel between that kind of writing process where they didn't really know what they were doing and this monster came out, as you refer to it, in this film, which kind of concludes with the composition of the song and the artistic component in your films of these being artists. And I think that the endings in all of your films are really strong and interesting, and this one especially. I was wondering if you could talk a bit about that.
Because I think that I start a film knowing how it's going to finish. The thing is the middle, what you do in the middle. You always have a good idea for the beginning, hopefully, I hope. And I usually have the ending also. I knew I wanted that. I knew I wanted to use a voiceover, for instance. I knew I wanted to get away from the place, from the house. I knew it had to connect with the beginning also. The film tells everything. At the beginning it says what's going to happen, and the film just makes time. That's what Elena is doing. She's making time for him to come. So she's messing around so everybody's entertained and confused in order to prove her epic foolishness. And it's important that I always have the endings for the films, and it's like something that I want to reach. And how can I do that? And I'm start how do you say, mixing the cards? I wanted into something like another kind of picture, you know, a little bit more at ease, silent with that thing, like doing, like producing a formal change that would indicate that the film is going to finish. Like the film establish its rhythm and its way of moving, you know, in one sense, and suddenly when there's a crack there, the film can finish. In a formal crack, the film can finish and gives notice that it's finishing. And the song has to do, I think there are topics that I enjoyed and they come out natural to me, but I think that they apply, I don't try to put them in the film in a very mandatory way, the music stuff, the artistic stuff, but I think that in each film that I do, it's a possibility. They have to make time, they have nothing to do, there's nothing to do, so they start doing the same things that we were doing when we were shooting, that it's playing guitar, singing, doing this, doing that, seducing one another. There was something that I really liked from trying to make if this is the shot, that there shouldn't be so many different things from the shot to what is happening behind. Even though I know that I have a script and I know how I want to shoot with the DP, we know how we wanted it, we rehearse, it's not that it's improvisation, but I do think that the script is hard enough, so we should hit him and soften him, and so we have to be very attentive to what is happening. And if everything is going down behind the camera, everything will be going down in front of the camera, because we wouldn't be such a liars. And so I incorporate all the things, and they have time, so they are singing, and singing is nice. It's nice to see people sing. Activities also with the games. It's nice seeing people playing games. It also softens things out. For instance, all this huge text where Elena is talking about this game that you don't get to know how it works. You have to soften that somehow, and the game strategy helped. And in Rosalinda, this idea of the game at the end, I really wanted her like out of the frame, but I didn't want it to point that out. She's like a loser. But at the same time, I didn't want her to feel like a loser, like being like an obvious kind of loser. So the idea of that suddenly there's a game and they're all playing and she's out of it. And she's a little bit, and the action and everything goes somewhere else. The other people have the magic of the scene and not her. And I thought it was good to do it that way. That it's a long scene, but I think the idea of making her loose into the narrative, like making her a very small character, would be achieved in that way, like trying to not point her out that, oh, look how full she is or how little she is or how, but to naturally forget her somehow or diminish her. So yeah, endings are important. The game, some music help, and at the same time I like music in films, and I don't like to put music like extrajudicial music that would be like pointing out so much. So and I like music, so I want to put the music like I put the books, so I have to put people playing them. And I like, and most of them are musicians also. They can sing or sometimes. And yeah, you have this documentary aspect of in between these hard, because they're hard fictions, they're super fictions, but at the same time you can see little things that don't belong to the fiction side. When they're playing, when they're singing, when they are just talking and receiving the text, and you are looking at them for 2 minutes. Yeah, and in Todos Mienten, that I knew it was a complex plot and all, I said, okay, let's have the plot. If people get so anxious about plots, let's put it there. And that's why the intertitle of the plot lasts for ages, because I did that on purpose, because first, usually when there's long text, I'm a slow reader, so it takes me 4 ages to read all. And this was very complex and very long. More than complex, it was tricky. It was not complex, it was tricky and long. So it should be there. It's not just an intertitle, it's a shot in itself that has words instead of a landscape. And it's very important for people to read that, because I think that through the repetition, things will come up in your mind. So that's why the song is also repeated. Also because they made a mistake, and I asked Elena to tell them repeat the song, because when I was shooting, I wanted like the song to be like fine and nice, and they messed up in the first. But then when I saw the footage, I realized that the mistake was good. That receiving those mistakes is a good way of softening things, of putting some reality to this hard fiction, to introduce something that was not expected. That I think each time I'm more fond of that, trying to introduce what I had no idea it could be introduced. And I didn't want to be so naive also in telling the plot simply, so I did this A song. I don't know if you got that, but in Spanish, it's all the words are with A.
Yeah.
In English, it would have been with E, but it was too hard. I would have to I don't know, the hands instead of the damas, that's ladies. In English, words with E for referring women was not that easy.
Yeah.
So it was hell. I tried, but I finally gave up and said, okay, native English. I think sometimes that people that don't know Spanish can enjoy less the films somehow.
No, I think in that scene, it's just you notice the sound, the repetition,
okay.
Like even if you're not picking up that it's the same.
I think repetition is important, that one should repeat things. So it was the card, the intertitle, the first try that they mess up, and the second one that it's okay. So people should realize, this may have something to do with the plot, and so they can be calm, they can be relaxed in order to let the film finish. Yeah.
Rosalinda, the first half's basically an adaptation, and then as a viewer, if you don't know what's going to happen, it seems like it's in two parts where then you get the behind the scenes. How did you arrive at that structure for?
I wanted to try that structure in two, because when I had to do like a medium feature that it's very strange length, and I thought, well, maybe it shouldn't be a film about plot. Especially if I'm working with Shakespeare, I wouldn't be able to be at his level. Yeah. So better to do something else. And I think that I was attracted to Shakespeare through its character, Rosalinda, and through her rhythm. So maybe we can work a little bit more on rhythm than on plot and that. So I decided that it could be two parts that would have obvious different rhythm, and that would be the film, to expose those two rhythms. One where Rosalind is like the center of a twister, that everything is to her, towards her, and the other one that it's absolutely the opposite. It's centrifugo y centripeto.
Yeah.
It goes into something, goes out to something. And just put that side by side and let people get it or not, but just feel that. So that's why it's all on Rosalind and nothing on Luisa. And it was hard for me to think about that. How can I do nothing on her without being obvious? No, without there are obvious parts when everybody's kissing and she's not. That's super obvious. But I thought that was nice. I wanted everybody to be kissing, so I think it was okay. It's kind of brute, in a sense, and obvious, really. But I think it was good. I liked that moment. It also is a break in the narrative that tells that something is going to finish. And you make a point that it's not that hard, also. One little point. It's not the whole point. And then that's why I think that it's also important, the last scene, the game. Because there you have it in a better way. So sometimes I think that Rosalind, it's not a two-part, it's a three-part film.
Yeah.
Finally, I was mistaken. I tried to do that two-part, but it's truly a three-part, because the last part that it's, I think, like 7 minutes.
Yeah.
It's something on its own, it's a block on its own, and has nothing to do with the second part. Because in the second part, they're kissing, and they're in the boat, and the shots, and the cranes, and the travelings, it's all quite different. From the last one. So yeah, I'd like that. It's a false to, I think, when we were editing, we found that healthy, not to be like so systematic. I will do like two-part film, and we tried to do that, but the experience takes you somewhere else that I think it was more interesting, because it was more uncertain and it has to do with uncertainty, the film. She's waiting, what's happening, I'm here, I'm enjoying this, but at the same time my head is elsewhere. How to communicate that tone.
There's an uncertainty with the audience too, because I think what happens in my experience watching it is that Rosalinda is the focus, and you develop this relationship with what you see as the protagonist of the story. Yeah. And then in the second part, or the middle part,
you can tell the second. It's good to tell the second part, so then you can say that it's not a second.
I don't think it's as obvious as you're saying. Like, even with the kissing scene, you're aware now, okay, this is an actress, it's not the character. Yeah. And you're starting to see that your relationship to her as a viewer is different than her relationship with the other actors. And then in that last scene, I'd say that the game scene is uncertainty, because the camera is not on her. You're uncertain what her relationship is in this game. You're uncertain even kind of how the game's fully functioning. Yeah. And then when you say you didn't want to make it obvious that she's left out, that comes in at the end with, like, there's a weight to it. It's almost also a melancholy.
Yeah, it's a hard end.
Yeah.
She got killed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was absolutely rich in shooting. That was not written. Yeah. But I remember I wanted a relaxed moment, and I decided the card game, that was a card game that we were playing in Todos Mienten a lot. Yeah. And I was not able to put it in Todos Mienten because we had enough foolishness, so I put it in Rosalind, and it helped to put her very much aside, but it also gave me a way, like a shooting script, because I wanted them to play the game for real, and it was not that easy, because it was not that, but they play for real, but I interrupted in certain moments I interrupted in order to change the position of the camera, because I only had one camera. So the game, the rules of the game helped me to develop how it was going to be shot. So for instance, I knew that I wanted to have the expression of the killer when he has to open the eyes and make believe that he's not the killer, when everybody's like everybody's opening their eyes and someone got killed and he has to play that he has nothing to do. And so I told them, okay, now everybody closes the eye. And I'll say, cut. I change the position. And the actors, as they're very smart, they usually started doubting and starting to learn about how things were. They usually were thinking that when I changed the camera, that if the camera was pointing at you, you were killed. And I realized I did that once, and they got that. So I changed so it was somehow changing in the middle of the thing. But I had a structure that the game gave me, and I was very thrilled with that. I realized, wow, yeah, I have this game that it's very ruled. There are many rules. There's someone that it's ordering people to do things in a certain way, and I have to show and follow, and I have to be able to make people follow this game as close as they can. And I want them to play for real, but this is a film, so everything is fake, but how can I deal with this thing in the middle? So it gave me a way of how to deal, shoot a scene without knowing everything, but trying to have a control of it, like surfing. I don't know. Yeah. I was surfing the scene with some plot, with some ideas, with some decisions, but that were changed through the experience. And I had a lot of fun of doing that. I was absolutely thrilled when I realized that the rules of the game helped me to design the scene. Because you see it and it looked like very natural, but no, it's absolutely thought. Then it changed a little bit in the middle, and you get to see the expressions of them, and I like that. And the actors are so good that they are always doing things to each other, and they're trying to capture the camera attention also. And they're very good. I'm very happy about knowing them.
The adaptation of the Shakespeare is also interesting, and one scene specifically is that in the play, the kind of wrestling scene is a pivotal, or it's a scene that's important. And in this, you only see not even just the rehearsal, but like almost just the physical preparation, and that's the only representation of that.
And that's the moment where the second part begins. And people don't know that it's part. Almost nobody knows that's part of the play, the wrestling scene. But I didn't care. I think it was okay. I was conscious that I didn't want people to be with the book in the saying, now is the second scene. No, I just wanted them to see, and suddenly this physical action, especially after 20 minutes of chatty Maria, would be nice to see. And it's very somehow hypnotical. Like Luciana, the girl that's she's a dancer, and she's Alejo's girlfriend, the editor's and the filmmaker girlfriend, and she's great in what she does. And she usually helps in theater plays and in movies to do that, to do the choreography of fights or choreography of things. So I decided to include that, and it helped me to not have to fall into words every time. And it's nice to see, to watch. It's interesting to watch, and they know each other very well, the two. So it was nice to see them interact, and and it helped shifting the point to something more visual and not so textual. And that's the big difference, because it's way too much text. And I still, since I transform them, I don't know if it's a true adaptation. It's just inspired by that and taken, and they're actors and they're performing and they're rehearsing. It's kind of a bizarre rehearsal way. It's not a true rehearsal, because nobody rehearsed that way. There's moments where it's stranger than rehearsal. But
the minimalism of the kind of performance at the beginning, the actual straight performance of the play, it almost made me think of the Strauss-Bouillet films where they're in the kind of forest or kind of pastoralling, and they're performing, and because of the way it's shot and because of the minimalism, you're almost aware that it's not meant to be a completely straight.
I didn't want it to be an adaptation. I wanted it to be an appropriation. Much more. What I like of Strauss films is not only its rigorous strength, but the way you can see actually this idea of breathing. That I think that in my films it's a little bit more confused, and you can see that well. But okay, they do that. There's no need to repeat that, and they are huge. But you can see the difficulty in saying those words and the punctuation that they give. I'm fascinated by how they punctuate each text, and also that how it's not. We don't want to be make believers.
Yeah.
Now we are like in the forest of art, and not even Shakespeare believed that. When in his time, they were in the Globe.
Yeah.
Everybody knew they were in the Globe. Nobody paid attention to the naturalistic, realistic needs. So why we would do it now? And I felt much more free to do it, like to treat the forest or that little jungle as a studio, because it really looks like a studio. It's not like, and yeah, I like Stroud's films. I think they're very different.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can learn out from them this idea of of rhythm. It's all about rhythm. That's why it's good not to try to see them without the subtitles, because subtitles can be distracting. It's the same thing that I was saying, that for non-Spanish speakers, you get something less.
Yeah.
I know that it's a little bit sad somehow, frustrating, because the important is to listen that rhythm in Spanish somehow, because usually English-speaking citizens, they say, why are you translating Shakespeare? What's the use in translating Shakespeare? Well, there's a use. That also can belong to me. So I can reappropriate that and put it into life again. And yeah. But I usually think that it's important to the faces, and it's important to listen to words, to try to catch the idea of rhythm. Because I know that the plot can be a little bit misleading. I think that in the Stroud it's very interesting that it's plain and in your face, and like to the bone, but to the bone. I don't know why I don't do that, but I really love that idea of them going to the bone, like scratching until there's nothing. And I usually like those ones where they are like in, I think, which one is it? They are like in modern cities, but saying those words.
Yeah.
It's not the one.
There's one that's titled, I can't remember because it's not in English, and I don't know the translation.
Antigone.
Oh,
Antigone is good.
Yeah.
I like Antigone.
And Moses and.
Moses. I haven't seen that.
Okay.
I have to see that, but that's an opera. I have to see that. But Antigone is very, very good in that sense of mixing and the plays, or yeah.
With Rosalinda, there's a lot of horizontal movements of the camera, like either panning or tracking.
Yeah.
And is that coming out of just the performance? Because it kind of comes up in Viola a bit too, when there are performance moments.
Yeah, in Rosalinda, I remember that I wanted to be kind of classical, and like clear. Shakespeare would be confusing enough. Imagine having those performances with the shots doing like that. No, I just wanted to be like quiet, like rest at ease, and you have the text. It's complex enough. You have to point out that it's about the rhythm and all. So I tried to work with lenses that were a little bit more open. I also tend to close a lot, so it's good to try to open a little bit, just a little bit, and just have them there, like in the screwball comedies. Screwball comedies are shot in plano americano. I don't know how in group shots, and because the important thing is the word and interaction between them. So I tried to put them as simple as possible. So that's only there's a little bit of that, and not that much. I tried not to be like fancy on that, like keep it simple. Yeah, and I think in Viola it has gone like closer. It has moved closer, like it's much more on their faces and trying to see the gestures out of those. Now I see you, then we do it again, and you see me, and then you'll see a third one, and those are the ideas of variations. One film called to the other one. Like I finish todos mienten, and I knew that I could do those shots, so okay, let's move on and do something else. Now we have Shakespeare, the text is Baroque, it's complex, so maybe it's good to have like a clear viewing of that text, not to try to show off in that sense, and try to make people realize that the important thing is the text, and that it's very simple how it will be shot. And it could be much more simpler. It could be much more simple. Maybe it should have, but next time maybe. And in Viola, I wanted to be close up, like way close to them. And now I wanted to go like big. The next one should be, I'm first silent, and try to make a silent Shakespeare. And then, I really have to practice on my wide angle thing. I haven't done it. I have to do it. I have to try it. And and dark, not in a perverse way, but in a light. In terms of light, it should be very dark, and not too many words, and big angles, wide angle. Let's see what happens. But that's the idea for the next.
The closeness in Viola is interesting. There are three specific scenes that I want to talk about where how the camera is close. There's the first where there's a performance and it's a lot of high angle shots too that are close. Then there's the rehearsal scene, a long take as well. And then there is the scene in the van where they're close, but it's cut to the three characters. One's in the very back, one's in the front, and one's somehow in the middle. How do those scenes kind of rhyme with one another?
I think they rhyme in this idea of being close and stay for a while. Like keep on looking. Don't be hurry. There's no need to cut to something else. So that's the idea why the shots are long and they insist on faces. And that you can see someone for 3 minutes while they say these words. And if you get this abstract, well, you go close to someone and you make that abstraction. You take them out of the context, so you can picture more, think much more about the text and how they are playing the text. And even I like the idea of this idea of theater and this uncomfortableness with theater, that it's much more gestural. So I think it's good to be close. We shouldn't be that shy. We should try to force new things to happen, not to. Okay, I like when they gesture a little bit more than they should. And then, well, the first two are very much related. And the third one, I really wanted to put the epilogue of As You Like It, because I couldn't do it in Rosalinda. And that's why Rosalinda is telling it. And I had to have Maria tell that epilogue somehow. And it was an idea that had to do with including Shakespeare in the non-Shakespeare part of the film, taking Maria to Shakespeare, and also an idea of a stranger tone. I think that the second one and the third one of the things you mentioned have a different tone, less realistic in a way. There's this loop where it's kind of tiring, but at the same time it's like a mantra, and it's trying to do something like a magical spell or something.
The seduction kind.
The seduction one, the rehearsing, the rehearsal that they go, the one girl sets a trap to the other one, like by putting her in a loop, because it's like they begin the scene, and instead of carry on, she goes back to one every time, so she traps her there. And in the other one, it's this kind of dreamy kind of sequence that gives like a major plot issue that has to do with the shifting towards the relationship of Viola with his boyfriend, and this strange world in which she's now, and some characteristic of her own. She's like having a monologue with two friends, non-friends. And so there's something of wanting to have a tone that it's not 100% realistic, but at the same time not crazy, you know? So a different tone. So I think they connect in that sense. through Shakespeare, through the insistence on faces, through the insistence of a different tone. The first one is more clear, it's more simple in that sense, but it was a way of introducing all the characters. I like how the faces and all. I wanted to work. I never worked in Viola. I worked the diagonal. It was something that I realized that it could be nice. Most of the shots are like this, or like not much like that, but yes, like this. We see a lot of floor in Viola. I like that. I thought that it would be also giving something to the image in terms of the focus, of how focus won't be one point and then nothing, but it would be a degree, a graduation. Gradiente. Yeah. Little by little, you will go into focus and you will lose focus instead of just having focus here and no focus. That would be an image much sharper and less nice, I think. And in the car, it was important that they move. It was, I haven't shot in a car, so I wanted to try that. And it's so boring. So because what will you do? You put the camera in a grip in the hood. That's awful, and you'll have the problems with the reflection. It will be, and I don't like that. And then you have all those kind of ear things and the cushion and all that. And I say, okay, let's do that, and let's do a shot and counter shot once and for all. But let's do some trick about it. So let's go into the dream while we go shot, counter shot, shot, voila. And so it was important that, and also I kind of liked something that nobody will notice, but that the girl has a band. That she has a band that's bizarre, but I didn't want to show it. But she traveling, because the film is with Maria now, with Viola. She's not with the other one. I did a point in when the film shifted its point of view, it shifted radically somehow. It won't go back, and you won't know what happened with Cecilia and her Shakespeare thing. You won't know, and in the dream they say, no, I won't tell you, and I really like to, with this car scene, try to do something that would be denaturalizing the thing through the space, because you don't know it's a band, and suddenly you see that somewhere it's sitting in the middle of I don't know where. And it's very simple. It's something that came up there. I wanted it a band because I wanted to move the camera somehow, because it would be, we were 8 people inside that. I was in the hood, I was in the trunk with the sound girl, with Dana, and the band closes this way, so there was someone that when everybody was ready, we were like stretching like this, and they were squeezing us like tuna, like closing action. And it was great, and we were very up close. In a car you won't have a possibility of being far, so I decided to have a van just in order to have a little more distance and more possibilities of movement. And suddenly, while we were shooting that, I realized that the movements could be that. The decisions were taken inside in the shooting place. It was not something that I thought before. It just happened. You are there and you try to make some rhythm out of it. And I said, okay, this could be nice. There was no plan for a storm until it stormed. It was cold. It was terribly humid. It was horrible. When Romina is waiting outside, you see her coming in then, that she's like, it was a hard day, and the shot, I thought that I was going to do a little bit more of montage in that scene, but suddenly it was not coming out that well, and I insisted it, and we were doing part by part, but in one moment I decided to go through in the middle of the shot. And so they're so good, and they're very sensible, so they could go at it with no problem at all. But it was kind of crazy, and we did all the scene in one shot. Like we started at 10 o'clock, and in 1 o'clock we did that, and then we had to go to lunch. And I decided, I was a little bit uncertain about what's of the scene. I don't know if it was doing fine. It was doing not fine. It was doing shitty. During the whole the morning, and suddenly that last shot before lunch, it was okay, and I decided there that we could go to lunch, and because it was time, and because I was feeling that maybe what we had just done was good. And we went to lunch. I was like feeling comfortable, and I was saying, okay, no, we'll keep on shooting, because I had this idea that there should be montage in this. And then we did all the rest of the afternoon shooting this same scene, but a lot of other angles and very nice and something. And then suddenly I realized that the shot was that one. So we shot, we waste our afternoon shooting something that will never be seen. But it helped me. It helped me. And yeah, but it has to do with this preparation and this concentration in the moment and this confidence that I have in my DP, in my crew, in the actresses, that they also give. I always try to listen a lot to them and to include what they provide, and because I know that you don't know everything. You have to listen, you have to be attentive. You have the camera in order to capture their intelligence and their creativity, so you have to be not that oppressive, I think, as a director. And yeah, and it came out fine. I'm happy with how it worked out. And they're very close friends, the three of them. And I really wanted to, you see, Romina couldn't be in Rosalinda, unfortunately. And I wanted her back. I wanted to work again with her. And so I pictured this little role, because I really wanted her to be with Agustina and Maria. And I thought that the three of them together will be sparkling and bubbly. And so I decided to do that. I thought that there would have something, and I think it actually has, because they know each other very well. They have worked before in different ways, and they will be like, how do you say, like pinching each other.
Yeah.
So they will be provoking each other a little bit, and they do. not only in the text or in the script, but themselves playing this. And this is where where I think I can find this point in the middle between the script that has been written, rehearsed, and the moment of the shooting. You have to find that crossing. And for finding that crossing, I think it's better not to be not to intervene that much, and to try to listen, and try to cope with the uncertainty that you may not be knowing where it ends. And and try to be attentive there, to pay attention to what is happening.
And there are characters that influence one another. Like the structure of the film, kind of like Rosalinda, it's almost the inverse, where if Rosalinda starts with the performance and kind of shows behind the scenes, this starts with the performance, shows the behind the scenes, and then Viola becomes a performer by the end. Like she's almost given a role and a game to play with her boyfriend that she then takes on.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of resonance that carries over?
This idea of the levels and ideas and little bombs that you settle, and one explodes and then takes you to the other one. And I like this kind of writing. I usually write like in little note cards, so they always born as blocks, as units.
Yeah.
Maybe I should try to go against that now, but
shuffle the deck.
To make one seem stranger in a way, but it's good, so I can organize the organization of it to say, okay, here and the repetition and the shifting from one another, making the circle, and trying not to overdo that at the same time, but trying to play with the genre, the hard word for me. The genre, film noir, western.
Oh, the genre,
The genre. Well, a little bit with the doors opening and closing, coming in, coming out. The messenger is always coming and bringing something, and to take those ideas and put them, and put them into the scenes, in different scenes, and then they can resonate from one to other.
Are you gonna retain the use of the same actresses throughout this Shakespeare project that you're
and I'm always trying to include some others, because there's many people that I would like to work with, and that's why the casts are always growing. Like there's always more people that I want to work with, so there's always like more characters in my films. Yeah, my idea is that they will be shifting roles, and I think that I don't want that all the films be a same narrative, like they're following Cecilia through different moments. No, but they're the same actors doing different roles. Maybe sometimes one could appear, for instance, the boy that appears at the end that kisses a girl in Viola. He could be the one that in Rosalinda as well. His name is the same, it's Gaston in both films. It's not important, but that could be some link. But then I wouldn't do that all the time. I would stop doing that. And yeah, I'm working with some people that haven't been there yet, or bringing up someone from Rosalinda that could not be in this one, because I do adapt to what it's possible in the time.
Yeah.
I wanted to work with the other Julian or with Esteban. You see that there's someone that it's now that haven't been in the one before, but it has been in the previous one. So that means that he couldn't be available for the previous one, because I do write the things for them, and when some things come up and they can be there, I transform things. And the guy that does a little role here in Viola, that it's the boy that Viola gives the DVDs the second time. I want him to be Chas in Todos Mienten, but he couldn't. He never knew that I was, because I knew him back then. But then he was going for a trip to Europe and he couldn't be there. So I met someone else that was Julian, that he's great, and I changed the role a little bit for him. And he did incredibly great. And then he was in Rosalind, that it's the one that got killed in the game, and that throws oranges. And then he couldn't be in Viola, so now I want him back somehow. And the same thing with Esteban. Yeah, like moving around. I hope I can make a couple of them, and then when you show them, you show all of them, you see something very vaporous. Not a strategy or something like very plottish, but something that it's bubbly and moving around. Like, how do you call the mobiles, Calder things? How do you call the Calder structures?
Oh, mobile.
Yeah, something like that. I like that idea for films, that they are mobiles somehow.
And it's going to be the comedies.
Yeah, it will keep on being the comedies, and it will keep on being the female characters.
Yes.
The next one must be well, we've done girls doing boys. Now it's time for boys doing girls, and I hope the next one will be that. I'm writing it. It's called The Princess of France. The Princess of France from Love, Slavers, Lost, and I'm starting to have the first ideas and those variations. For instance, boys, girls, boys. We'll see. Hope it's possible. I think it should.
Thanks for chatting with us.
No, thank you. What time is it? 11 o'clock? Yeah. Oh, great. Perfect timing.
Perfect time?
Yeah.
That's the record for longest interview ever. We broke the record.
Yeah.
Because we usually
Chatty boy.
No, but we usually do an hour and a half,
Oh, okay.
and we usually do it in a bar.